You know that glass of milk you might pour in the morning? Have you ever really stopped to think about what's actually in it? Well, today, we're doing just that. We're going to go way beyond the carton and do a deep dive into the incredible science, the nutrition, and all the technology that makes milk one of our most fundamental foods.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at what's inside a single drop. Then we'll talk about why it's called nature's complete food. After that, we'll get into the cool science behind dairy, and finally, we'll follow milk's journey all the way from the farm to your carton.
All right, so let's kick things off with a question that sounds super simple, right? What makes milk? Well, milk. But trust me, the answer to that question is going to take us into some really complex and pretty fascinating biology.
Okay, let's get right into our first section. We are literally going to deconstruct a single drop of milk and see what's actually hiding inside.
So, looking at this, you might be a little surprised. Milk is like 87% water. But the real magic, the whole story, is in that other 13%. That's where all the good stuff is. The fats, the proteins, the sugars, the minerals. It's a tiny fraction, but it is an absolute powerhouse.
You know that slightly sweet taste milk has? That comes from lactose. It's milk's natural sugar. And yeah, it's a great source of energy, but it's got this kind of secret superpower too. It actually helps our bodies grab onto and absorb important stuff like calcium.
Then you've got the proteins. They're basically split into two big groups. The vast majority, about 80%, are called caseins. These guys are super important. They're what make milk white, and you absolutely cannot make cheese without them. The other 20%? That's whey protein, which I'm sure you've heard of. And of course, we gotta talk about the fat. It's easy to just think of it as energy, but it's doing so much more. The fat is what gives milk that amazing creamy mouthfeel, and it's also a delivery vehicle. It carries vitamins A, D, E, and K, all the fat-soluble ones that our bodies can't absorb without it.
All right, so now that we know the ingredients, let's see how they all work together. This is where milk really earns its reputation as a nutritional powerhouse.
I love this quote because it just nails it. Think about it. For a baby animal, milk is literally everything it needs to survive. It's a complete survival kit in liquid form. And even for us adults, it's still one of the most efficient ways to get a whole bunch of different nutrients all at once.
So let's put some numbers to this. If you have just 100 milliliters of whole milk, that's less than half a cup, you're looking at about 60 to 70 calories. And where's that energy coming from? Mostly from that fat and lactose we were just talking about. But here's the really crucial part. It's not just that milk has all these nutrients, it's that our bodies can actually use them really easily. The proteins are complete, meaning they have all the essential amino acids, the building blocks for our bodies. And its calcium is what we call bioavailable. It's not just there, it's ready to go to work, building bones and helping our muscles function. Okay, so we've established that milk is great to drink, but it's also a total chameleon in the kitchen. Its unique properties are the reason we have this entire universe of dairy products.
Okay, this is one of my favorite facts. Why is milk white? You'd think it's a dye or a pigment, right? Nope, it's actually a trick of the light. That bright white color is just light bouncing and scattering off billions and billions of tiny little fat globules and protein particles suspended in the liquid. It's pure physics.
Now, what happens when we heat milk up? You know that amazing, rich, toasty flavor you get in baked goods or even just in a sauce made with milk? That is the famous Maillard reaction. It's this incredible chemical dance between the proteins and the lactose that creates all these new, complex, and seriously delicious flavors. And at its core, it's pretty simple. You take the amino acids from the protein, you take the lactose sugar, you add heat, and bam, you get browning and a whole symphony of new flavors. This reaction is exactly why bread crusts get golden brown and why something like a creme brulee has that incredible caramelized taste.
Now for the real game changer, cheese and yogurt. Their entire existence comes down to one key process, coagulation. Basically, you get the proteins in milk to clump together or curdle by adding an acid or some specific enzymes. This separates the solid curds from the liquid whey, and that single step, that is the gateway to thousands of different kinds of cheeses and yogurts all over the world.
Okay, so we've covered the science and the nutrition. For our last section, let's follow the milk on its journey. How do we get it from a raw product on a farm to the safe, reliable carton you pick up at the grocery store?
The journey from the cow to your countertop is a super controlled, high-tech process. It all starts with chilling it down fast to keep it fresh. Then it's standardized, which is just adjusting the fat to make whole, 2% or skim. But the two really big, crucial steps for making it safe and giving it the right texture are pasteurization and homogenization.
Pasteurization is all about one thing: safety. It's using heat to kill off any bad bacteria, and there are a few ways to do it. The most common method you'll find for refrigerated milk is HTST. That's high temperature for a short time. But what about those milk boxes you see sitting on a regular shelf, not in the fridge? That's UHT, or ultra-high temperature. It gets blasted with intense heat for just a couple of seconds, which basically sterilizes it, giving it a super long shelf life.
So, you know how in old movies you see people shaking a milk bottle to mix the cream back in? Why don't we have to do that anymore? The answer is homogenization. It's not a chemical process, it's all physical. They basically shoot the milk at high pressure through a super tiny opening. This smashes the big fat globules into millions of teeny tiny droplets. They're so small they just stay suspended, which is why your milk has that perfectly smooth, uniform texture from top to bottom.
And when you put all this science and technology together, this is what you get. It's incredible, right? By learning how to play with milk's basic building blocks, we've unlocked this entire world of food: yogurt, cheese, butter, ice cream. The list goes on, all from one starting ingredient.
So when you think about it, milk is so much more than just something to pour on your cereal. It's this amazing intersection of biology, technology, and culture. It starts as this perfect food in nature and through science becomes a cornerstone of cuisines all over the world.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to chew on. For most of us, milk was our very first food, but now we live in a world with tons of new alternatives and changing ideas about diet. So, what do you think the future holds for this ancient and truly fundamental food?